Welcome back, everyone. So I am very excited about today's guest. So I have everyone know I grew up watching Days of Our Lives. Everyone knows I wrote for Days of Our Lives for a stint, and I am happy to introduce the wonderful, the talented Gabby Hernandez de Mira herself, Cherie Jimenez. Hi.
Hi, love.
Woo!
Oh, I am so happy to be here with you guys. Thank you so much for having me. This is
I
so
am so
awesome.
stoked. You are so great in this role, and I have told you before, like you should have been you are so good at Gabby. I almost said you should have. I wanted to say you should have been it from the beginning. You know I'm gonna stick by it because I mean that you should have been Gabby from the beginning. Like you bring so much heart to the role. You wear your heart on your sleeve. Like your very first scenes, I was enthralled, and I don't say that to everyone. And like I've been watching this show since birth, like sitting on my great grandmother's lap, and you are fucking fantastic. So thank you for continuing to give life and representation to a character like Gabby.
Thank you so much. That fills my heart with so much gratitude. It never, every time that people express to me how much they love my interpretation of Gabby and have given me a chance, aside from just what it all is prior and me coming into this, it just always thank you. That means so much.
You can tell that you're enjoying it and you are having fun.
Love
So
it.
I can tell it's so good. It is so juicy, and I literally am like, please get me back over there because I wrote for the previous
I
interpretation of Gabby, and
know.
I would love to write for you. But before we jump into all that, let's start about what really inspired you to become an actress. Let's start at the beginning.
Yeah, okay. Well, it kind of fell into my life as far as just so I'll like give you like a condensed version of it. So I grew up in New York City and my mom
Yes.
had me young. So it was my mom and my abuela basically that raised me and took care of me. And from the ages of like 5 to 9 or so, my mom and I became homeless. And when I say homeless, I mean that we just kind of slept here, slept there. We kind of just did the whole wherever. And so I would spend time in Washington Heights a lot with my cousins. Um, and we were just in like survival mode basically, but
Mm-hmm.
my mom did an amazing job and so did my abuela, and we had, I'd say, lots of angels. So like
Yeah.
everybody that took us in were all angels, and so I'm grateful for that. And so one of the things that we would do during all of that is, because we lived in New York City, we would get out of wherever we were and we would go adventure. So like we would go to Central Park and go rollerblading. We would go to Veneros and go get chocolate covered strawberries. We
Oh,
would go to like just like a little cafe and go like split a burger or just something, just anything. And one of the times that we were out and about in New York City, somebody had approached my mom and was like, "Oh my God, your daughter should be a model. She's beautiful." And I had like really, really long hair up to here. And I
mm-hmm.
always wore kind of like the same kind of thing around the time because I didn't have that many clothes. And so
Mm-hmm.
basically everything that I owned was in a backpack. And so I had this pair of ripped jeans and a white t-shirt. And so they mentioned it to my mom, and my mom had picked up the backstage, which it's so funny because I don't know if they still have the newspaper or the magazine or whatever,
No,
but
it's
back
online.
then,
Yeah.
she like opened it up and they told her about the backstage. So she was like, okay, found this sunflower commercial. And she was like, all right, do you want to go? And I was like, yeah, okay, let's go. We went and it was an open call. So mind you, there were hundreds of girls. And it was for, I believe, Elizabeth Arden perfume, now that I like think about it. And all
Oh,
the girls were wearing sunflower dresses and flowers in their hair, and they looked so beautiful. And here I am with ripped jeans and t-shirt and my mom. And I remember sitting there in this auditorium being like, oh my God, what am I doing here? And it's crazy because at such a young age, I could already feel the insecurity of just what other people had and what I didn't have.
mm-hmm.
Versus, I think prior to that, I wasn't really aware because I still had a very full life despite our situation, like we really did
Right.
do a lot and spend time with people. And so I got to just kind of step into a different world. And I went up, I did the audition. I don't remember exactly really what it was, but I ended up being top three. So I almost
Ooh.
got it, but I didn't get it. And the casting director ended up taking such a liking to me that she called me in for my first audition ever, other than that one, I'd say, for like a feature film, and it was for The Long Kiss Goodnight, to be Gina Davis's daughter. And so I had never auditioned before. I had never read sides. I never done anything like that. And she handed me the audition sides, and she basically taught me how to audition, how to just
Wow.
read it off the
Wow.
page and just be natural. And, she gave me some pointers, and I was up for that, but I didn't get it. And then she called me in for something else. And then I auditioned for Spanglish for the daughter. I auditioned for Writing in
Oh.
Cars with Boys. There was like a lot of, I forget, I can't think of the casting director. It would kill me. My mom knows her name. She was a pretty big casting director, but she basically kept calling me in, calling me in. And she basically taught me how to audition. And so because of that, then came the next part of it, is get headshots and get an agent. And so back in the day, there was like, you could go somewhere, I don't know where it was, and there would be little stickers of every single agent in New York City.
Yeah.
And you could take the sticker
Oh
and you could put it on
yeah.
an envelope. And then I put my headshot in there. And we probably sent out about 50
Yeah.
of
Yeah, I
these.
remember that.
Yes,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yes, right?
I
And
remember
it's
doing that
so
myself.
crazy. Like,
Yeah.
just talking to you about this now, I haven't thought about that until since I was young, that specific detail. And
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
and only two agents replied out of the 50 that I sent it to.
Hmm.
And one
That's
of
pretty
them that,
good.
yeah, right. Hey, I was
Yeah.
like, I mean, I didn't really know what I was stepping into necessarily, but they replied. I went with Schuler Talent at the time, and it was a mother and daughter. And I just kind of started auditioning, and then I started modeling and all these things. And so when I was booking things, like my first job was the Ovaltine commercial in Espanol. So I said,
Uh,
más Ovaltine, por favor. And I drank so much of it that to this day, I
Ooh.
can't taste it,
Right.
because I had never done anything like that. So I was like, oh, this is yummy. This is yummy. And by the end, I was like, screw this. I'm never doing
Never
that
again.
again. Yeah. But opportunities started coming my way, and I booked like a short film, which I got my first kiss in a short film,
Oh
um
yeah.
Aw.
with the boy that I was obsessed with, because I was also a model, and I used to model with this guy, and I thought he was the cutest thing, and he ended up being my first kiss. I was like, look at me manifesting at a young age.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's right.
yes.
Yeah, I loved him. But it was just kind of things that were coming into my life, and because of modeling and acting, and my mom also worked at a law firm, we were able to save enough money to move to Brooklyn. So we moved like in between Williamsburg and Bushwick. I don't like I remembered that taking the L train and getting off Star Street and walking, and then that's where we lived.
Yeah.
But we had our first apartment, and I went to the Broadway Dance Center. My mom put me into that on the weekends. So I started taking dancing classes, singing classes, acting. I also did ballet for a little bit, which is funny because I ended up getting a scholarship, and I said no, because my heart wasn't in it. And I knew that I just, it wasn't. But it's funny because ballet always holds a special place in my heart, because I look at it as something that could have been a different path for me, but just wasn't. And also, I was
Yeah.
young. I didn't really know, except that I was just having fun. I was enjoying it.
Mhm.
But what really changed everything for me was that I did this for from 9 to 13 years old. And at 12 years old, I auditioned for a movie at Sundance Filmmakers Lab. So I'm not sure if
Mm.
you're familiar with the Filmmakers Lab
Yeah.
specifically.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
yes, yes, perfect. So they hold it in June, and then they choose about like 6 or 7 directors, and then they film a couple of the things, and they have all these actors. So I go out there, I booked the lead in a movie called Caucasia, and my mom and I went out there, and we went to go live out at Sundance for the month. And the wild thing about it, the whole experience in itself, was that at the time too, I was just young. I was just enjoying all of it, and just, okay, cool, like opportunity, and work, and I get to act, and this is fun, like nothing too serious. But at Sundance, uh, I got acting classes by Sally Field, Delray Lindo. I got to work with on the film specifically. My mother was played by Connie Britton. My
Oh, I
dad
love
was
that.
my stepfather was played by Michael Beach. My stepsister was
Wow.
played by Kerry Washington, and my love interest was Jake Gyllenhaal. So what's crazy about this is that at the
Wow.
Wow.
time, isn't it like, and it's funny because then I didn't process it. Also, some of the actors were big and some of them were just kind of starting out in the industry and starting to make a name for themselves. On top of the fact that I was the youngest at that time there at Sundance, and I was surrounded by so many actors and so many creatives. And, I would do like a screenplay. I would be invited to do a screenplay reading. I would be in an acting class. I would be listening on a something, it was just so much going on that I was just going into this world and learning so much about it at 12 years old. And what happened was that um, I was given a scene with Michael Beach, and in the storyline, it's basically centered. And mind you, the movie has never been made. It did make it to Sundance, but it just didn't get chosen to be made into a full length feature. So this is just like a little piece of my life that I get to just kind of have there that just
Yeah.
exists for whoever was there at the time. Um, and in the scene, I basically see my stepfather after not seeing him for a long time. And the story takes place in the 70s. And my mother falls in love with Michael Beach, and she's white and he's black. So at that time, that relationship is not something that people were accepting of. And so my mother had taken me on the run, and we had to go change our identities, and we just had this whole other life. And so after years of running with my mom, I've come and find my father, and I have to come to him in the scene, and I say to him, where have you been? I needed you. You never came to look for me. And what's interesting is that all the scenes prior to that I filmed, it was just, like a scene with Carrie, a scene with Connie, a scene here, just like scenes and storylines. That scene was asking of me to be vulnerable and raw and just give something that I had never given prior to that. Like I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't, it's funny, I say that now as an adult, I never really cried that much. I was always very tough. I think too, because of the way that my mom and I grew up, we didn't really have time to like sit there and cry about it. It was like, okay, let's get up and let's go here. Let's go do this. It was just kind of like the life that I lived. And so crying just wasn't a part of it. Like I didn't allow myself to really feel vulnerable and open in that way. But basically I couldn't get there emotionally with the scene. And I was having such a hard time with it that in the middle of the scene, I like turned to Michael and I was like, I don't like this. I don't like the way I'm feeling. I just don't know what you want, like what they want of me. I'm just not able to get there.
Wow.
I don't want to do this anymore. And I decided in that moment, I just like, I was like, screw this. I'm like, I'm not the one. Obviously, I can't get here. I don't know what you're asking of me. And I'm 12. So also for me, it's like, this is just like what? Michael pulled me aside and said, you know what? Forget everybody, forget the cameras, you and me. Let's go and let's just talk. I want to do a little improv with you. Let's just talk. How does it make you feel that I wasn't there for you? How does, we basically just it was like everybody else disappeared, and he allowed for me to take my time entering a state that I didn't think I was able to. And in turn, what happened was so beautiful. I was able to release, I was able to give more than I thought I possibly could in that scene. And by the end of it, I mean, not only was I in tears, but everybody was like, that was so beautiful. And I decided that this is what I wanted to do. So it was like a
Wow.
weird thing of like, I don't want to act to like, I never not do not want to feel this ever. And then Stanley Tucci was there, and he was overseeing our scenes that day. And he came up to me and said that it was really beautiful, the work I had put in, because he had watched everything go down. And he said, when you're older, um if you want to continue to do this, I went to SUNY Purchase Acting Conservatory, and so I would suggest working on your craft and pursuing it if you really want to. And so I after Sundance, we moved to Westchester, New York. My mom got married to my stepdad, who's wonderful, but acting, I had to leave the performing arts school. I went to the fame school um prior to that, and so everything that in my life was arts related. And then all of a sudden I was going to like a public school, and I was like, hold on, what is this? And so once I got to the point of college, I auditioned for Juilliard, SUNY Purchase, and I got into SUNY Purchase. And so I studied there. I didn't stay there for 4 years. I stayed there for a year, and then after that I decided to move out to LA and just go for it.
And that's when the magic happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally, it sounds like what through this whole journey that you just told us, like you had a lot of guardian angels that really helped guide you and shape and mold like your career, which is like the dream, you know. You would hope that someone takes you under your wing and guides you through this because the entertainment industry is so tough, and
Oh,
especially for a child. So, like, first of all, God bless your mother. She sounds like an amazing woman, and that
she
she
is.
really, really like invested in you and good things she did. And
Yeah.
all these star-studded people that just like
I
kind
know,
of
isn't
like
that crazy?
like
And it's funny because now I'm older and I'm like, oh my God, this is so crazy. And it's so funny because I've reconnected with Michael Beach, and he said that I played his first daughter, that I was the first daughter that he had, me and
yeah.
Carrie. Um, and then Michael Shannon wasn't in our movie, but he was at Sundance and we spent a lot of time with him. So I ran into him when I first moved out to LA.
It's just
And then
crazy.
I have yet to reconnect with everybody else but Carrie. It's so funny because Carrie
Oh,
is Carrie. And
I
Carrie
love
is
Kerry
just
Washington.
amazing. And we haven't reconnected. And my mom is like, you should like follow her in this. And I go, no, no, no. I trust that. I mean, and of course I follow her on all the things, but I was like,
Right.
look, I trust that the universe one day is going to bring us back together. And when we cross paths, it's going to be better in person to be like, hey,
Yeah. Yeah.
Remember
do
when?
you remember when we lived at Sundance for that entire month?
Yeah.
Oh, I
Spent
love
every day
So
that.
together. Yeah.
I want to get into the Demira drama.
Right.
Ah,
Sorry.
They've been
yeah.
itching.
I
They've
just
been
want to
itching.
fast forward
They
a
have
little
been
bit.
itching.
Yes.
I was so into Days. I watched it with my granny all growing up. Probably not as much as Darrell did with his family, but almost to the point of obsession. Anyway, Demira's, what's it like being part of the dynasty?
First of all, to be to be on Days of Our Lives, number one, is iconic. Truly a blessing. Gabby is a dream role. What's really cool about the Damaras in particular is that the phoenix is their symbol. That's what Stefano has in his ring. And when I did my screen test in the Damara mansion with Brandon, I turned over before we started everything and I looked over at the table and I looked down and I didn't know that the phoenix was a symbol of the family. And I looked at the phoenix and I thought, is that a phoenix? And then no, or somebody yelled action, and then we just started the screen test. And then afterwards I left. Come to find out that my son's name is Phoenix and I named him after the Firebird. And so the way that everything has been brought together. So just to even be a part of the icon, because I know that they have all the families, but the Damaras in particular, I freaking love it. I love it so much. I love Kristen. I love EJ. I mean, of course, Steph and Brandon, my heart, like I miss him so much.
Yeah.
But it's just so much fun. Anytime that I work with any of them, we have so much fun. The situations are just out there every time. I never know what's going to happen and what script I'm going to get. Um, and also, it's funny because even though I'm a Hernandez and I'm a Hernandez Demera, and
Mm-hmm.
Stefan and I are not together, we are still married. So I am still a Demera. And one of my best friends was like, hold on. So when I booked it, because he used to watch it with his grandmother and hasn't watched it in forever, and he was like, "Oh, so what's your character? Blah blah blah." And I was like, "Oh, well, I'm married to a Demira." And and he was like, "The Demiras?" And I was like, "Yes." And he goes, "Oh my God." He goes, "That is amazing." And I go, "It is amazing, isn't it?" And since I've been there, I've gotten to really just enjoy it. And any time that I am in the Demira mansion, it's such a beautiful set and
It's a
just
great
so
set. I went and sat on
it's
that
so
Beautiful.
set.
regal.
Yeah. It's so
Yeah,
nice.
I like always find myself like in rehearsal looking around and I'm like, what is that? And I'm like, that's cool. And then sometimes I see stuff where I'm like, that is so weird. And they were like, yeah, that's something that rich people would have. And I was like, yeah, it is something that really rich people would have, just like weird animals with like different heads of different things. But yeah, just, they're like really rich. But it's amazing. I love it. I love it. I love it so much.
So is there a storyline? I know like soap operas are usually known for the dramatic twists and the
Yes.
shocking, Is there one that you can think of where you were just like, I don't like what? Like how am I gonna play this? Like is there any bit that you were just like, I don't know how to do this, but made it through?
Yeah, of course. Probably the being tied to the chairs with Melinda Trask.
Yeah.
When
Mm.
Connie comes in,
Mhm.
it's so funny because when we got in there, they were like, "Okay, you're gonna be tied to the chair the whole time." And we had, like when you get to days and you shoot, the day starts at 8:45 every single day. So like no
Hmm.
matter what, it's just go and they just go, 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 go. We were the first ones up that day. So to go in from the morning hair and makeup and like a little bit of a rehearsal to all of a sudden being tied to a chair and to get to this place of panic at 8:45 a.m. when you're just like barely holding on was definitely a little tough just because Tina and I were like, "Ooh, damn, we're like really going in like right in the morning," versus just being able to have like a little bit of time to kind of ease into it and be like, "Okay, just
Hmm.
understand the state of everything." But I think that was a little difficult just putting myself mentally in that place. But then once I got there, I just let it all go and we just went for it. And I think after the first few scenes, it was just kind of taking a moment to just figure out how to exist within that situation.
Hmm.
And
Mhm.
then like once we did, Tina's such an incredible actor as
She's
well.
so
And
fun. She's
she
so
is
great.
so fun and she always gives so much and I love working with her so much. And it's beautiful because, with Gabby coming into this too, I was like, does Gabby have any friends? And they're
Yeah.
like, no, Gabby doesn't have any friends. And I'm like, I want Gabby to have a friend.
Yeah.
And they're just like, well, maybe Gabby needs to start thinking about her actions before she gets a friend.
Oh.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Yeah.
like for real, I'm like, okay, okay. And I've gotten some friendships here and there, so it's been really cool. But specifically with Melinda, they've given us a really cool friendship from here on out in regards to us being in that situation together. So I'd say that was probably like for me, the like, oh shit, okay, how are we gonna do this? And then once I saw it, I was like, okay, all right, we
Oh,
did
you
it.
killed it. You
So
We
killed it.
I
did
You
that. Yeah,
started.
yeah, yeah, we did it.
You
Because
started
you also
spraying and
don't know
paint.
what it's gonna look like, like all of a sudden when it airs, you're like, oh God, I hope that it's realistic enough that people believe that I'm
Well, I
there.
absolutely, and I just love the diversity that they continue to put. Like you prayed in Spanish when you were in that
Yes.
scene, and they were able to do that,
Yes.
and they keep doing that with those characters. A lot of you hear from a lot of people in the entertainment industry, and they don't give the respect to soap
Mm,
actors. And
Hmm.
I Ashley and I both have done
which is
small parts on
wild.
General Hospital, and it's
Amazing.
crazy because they come in and those scripts change and they change, and you have to fly by the seat of your pants. So what would you say to those naysayers who don't really know how soaps work when they have emergency recast, for example, and they're like, why couldn't they have moved this scene around? It's like money. So what would you say to people who think it's so
Oh my
easy
God.
to do certain things?
First of all, I have the utmost respect for every single soap opera,
Yeah.
every single actor. I had heard prior to booking this just how much went into being on a soap, but I don't think you could truly grasp it until you're there.
Yeah.
This is the hardest that I have ever worked.
Yeah.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
as well, and what's crazy is that as a mother, I'm over here trying to figure out how to find time to be present with my son. So when I come
Hmm.
home from work, I put those scripts aside and I don't look at them until he goes to bed. And even still, then I have a husband. So I want to spend time with my husband too. Then once he goes to bed, I spend 2 hours
Mm.
isolated looking it over, and I'll take little breaks, because obviously you got to take little
Your
mental
mind.
breaks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I will just work on it and work on it. I do anything from 20 to 60 pages a day.
It's a
Oh
And
my
lot.
God.
Wow.
and monologues. I mean, there is so much to say and I'm not complaining. At the end of the day, this is what I have worked my whole life for, and I'm
Mhm.
grateful that it came into my life when it did because I pride myself in my work ethic always, and I will always give something my all and I will commit. And with this specifically, there is no room for laziness. There is no room
No,
for, oh, well, I'll just learn it in my chair. And I've heard that people do that. I don't know how they do
I
that,
don't know
but
how they
I
do it.
want to be able to not only be present when I'm on set, but I want to give it my all and I want to have fun and I want to play and I want to do the best that I can and I want to just discover so many things in a scene that the last thing I have to worry about is my line or are my lines. And so for me, being in this industry, and I will always say it, so much respect. You know, the industry, it's weird that they look down on soap actors so much,
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
and I don't understand it, because this is where you really learn. This is, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's like being in a
Yes.
play.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
Yes.
basically like theater, which theater is also a great place to be as well. I mean, I think every oh, hold on, sorry. Hello? Oops, hold on. Hello, sorry. My mother called me. I'm like, "Mama, don't call me."
It's okay.
There you go. But no, I just I think that people, I mean, it's hard, because if somebody has their opinion about something, they're just going to continue to live in that space, and you can't really tell them nothing. So
It's a,
Yeah.
it's a
I
space of
just
delusion.
think that, like, really at the end of the day, we know the work
Yeah,
that we put in, and we have respect for each other, the
yeah,
cast, the crew, and every single person there works as hard. There is not like one
Yes.
person works more than the other. And it's beautiful, because it, I mean, especially at Days, I don't know, I'm pretty sure with all soaps, I can
yeah.
only imagine, it's a family, and
It
people
is.
care about each other. You know, me coming in as a recast, me coming in as Gabby, especially, everyone had Camila for 13 years, and then all of a sudden here I come in, and I have been shown nothing but respect and kindness, and everyone has been so accepting and so wonderful. And people came and introduced themselves, and every director I get to work with, every producer I get to work with, all the cast, all the crew, everyone is so hardworking, and I feel so blessed to be a part of that. And so I think, to everybody else that really just doesn't understand, I mean, you just can't truly understand unless you're in it.
Unless you're in
And
Yes.
it.
yeah, I
And
think it's
I
just
want to
that.
give a shout out.
Yeah.
You kind of mentioned real briefly. I have to give a shout out to your husband. So Sean Ferris, actually. So Ashley and I are obsessed. Let him know this. We're obsessed with
Yes.
Pretty Little Liars, and he
Yeah.
played Detective Gabriel on Pretty Little Liars, and we love that show. And he was amazing in that role. And tell him,
Yes.
please come back if they ever do another Pretty Little Liars. Let him know
Oh
that.
my God,
That
I
well,
will,
men actually
I
are
will.
obsessed with Pretty Little Liars. You don't get it.
Yes.
We
We're big fans.
t-shirts and everything. Like we're crazy. So
I love it.
They
I
I
know
always
you're
love
walk
talking
around like
about
this.
it.
shirts,
we do. We walk
Darrell.
around saying the
I
same, doing
know.
this.
I
Like
know,
we
I know,
wild.
I know. I know, it's so funny, because I'm friends with Lucy, and for her, it will always haunt her that it's
The
right
off to the
here. She was
side. It's
like,
just
"Yep."
like
We have a whole joke about
And
that.
nobody, and like it's crazy, because I'm like, the fact that nobody corrected her, that they
like
could have
who?
had
They're
just
Yeah,
like,
done another
baby,
take and been like, "Hey, Lucy, can you just move it
Just
over a
shift to
little
the left
bit?"
a little.
yeah.
just a
Just a little bit, just a
smidge.
little bit, just a smidge. But hey, you know what? It is what it
It,
Oh,
is.
I love that.
Oh,
I
but
love
I
it.
will most definitely let him know.
Yes.
He will, yeah,
And then
definitely.
I
He
mean you
is
have
amazing.
this. You have like close you know rounds because you also had the wonderful Ashley Benson, who also used to play the young Abigail on Days, who was best friends with
Yes.
Gabby, who was on Pretty Little Liars. So y'all have like the degrees of separation. It's kind of
Yes,
cool.
which I know Ashley as well. So it's so funny, because when I moved out here, within my group of friends that I was hanging out with in my 20s, you know, now I'm a mom and married, and like everybody's kind of just gone their separate ways, but a lot of them were working actors, or like
Hmm.
on a show, or this and that. So it's cool to just now be older and still have these friendships when you see these people, and just see where everybody's career goes. But yeah, that's right. Ashley Benson was on Days. Hold
Yeah.
on, who was she? She was the original
She was original Abigail. So
Abigail. That's
yeah,
right.
so
Oh
Abigail and Gabby were
wow.
best friends at the
Okay.
time when they had that story. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it was so good. We have to do a whole day's breakdown one day. I'm gonna sit with you and be like, girl, let me tell you,
Yeah.
you don't
Well,
know.
every
Do you
so
remember what
often
happened
when
on
I'm curious
Days?
about a storyline, I will ask Namba,
Yeah,
Dual Fan, to
yeah.
like, if like he has a scene, you know, I'm like, "Hey, do you have this scene?" Or like, if I have something that comes up in the script where I'm recounting a situation, sometimes I'll be like, "Hey, do you have the scene? I kind of just want to familiarize myself with the story." And then I'm like, "Oh shit, okay, like shit went down. All
Yeah,
right.
it
Thank you
definitely
very
did. It
much."
definitely did.
You know, just like give me a little backstory.
Yeah.
Right.
So before we let you go, I have one more.
Oh,
I
we're already
know.
leaving.
Yeah, almost. We're almost there. I do
Almost.
have a question though. So,
Yeah,
what
baby.
is your dream role outside of soap operas?
Dream role, Bond girl.
I love
Ooh.
That's a
that.
Yes,
great
yes.
answer.
And I don't mind being the villain necessarily. as a Bond girl, which most can be, but I love Eva Green. Eva Green is one of my favorite, and I also just love her as an actor as well. She's really really
Mm-hmm.
incredible. She's given just such incredible performances in movies and shows that I've seen her in.
Hmm.
But there's just something so classic and so beautiful about a Bond girl, and so powerful and so strong,
Yes.
that I feel like it has all the elements of a woman in one, versus just being the beauty and just being like, oh, the pretty girl. There's just so much more. And so a Bond girl,
Yes.
definitely. And then, I would love to do a cartoon just for my son, like a
Yeah.
voiceover
Aw.
of something, just like a cartoon, like a Pixar, a Disney movie, just something fun like that. And
Cute, cute,
then
cute.
yeah, and then, just whatever the universe has for me, I'm here.
Yay.
I love
But
that.
I will say, where I'm at right now with Gabby, this is my dream role. And the fact that 15 years ago when I auditioned for it, I loved this role so much and it just wasn't meant to be. And that's okay. But I always thought about it. And because it was just, I don't know, it was just one of those roles that just always kind of was just there. And so for it to come back around is wild and amazing and just beautiful.
I
I
love
love
Wow.
that.
that. Well, like, congratulations on all of your success. And,
Thank you.
we wish the best for you. And we hope to see you as a Bond girl. I hope to hear your voice as a Pixar character. Like,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
good at manifesting, so we're manifesting that into
Oh,
the
yes, yes,
universe.
yes. Thank you, love.
And so, one last thing we do want to
Yes,
ask you: what
of
does
course.
pride mean to you?
Pride means pride represents love. Love is the answer at the end of the day. And,
Amen.
I told one of my friends the other day, he was just talking about the state of the world and everything going on. And I was just listening. And afterwards, I said to him, because, in this situation, in this climate, I didn't want to be like, well, it's okay. It's going to be okay, because it's not okay. There's just so much hate
No.
going on. There's so much
Yeah.
separation. And it's so sad because on one end, we've made so many beautiful advances, and people being able to be open about who they are and what they want for themselves and accepting of others. And then on the other end, we're just not, we're like trying to shut it down. It's like evil trying to take out the good, but the good will always prevail. But I told him, I just want you to know that I'm going to raise my baby to love all the babies. So for me, love, just
Yes.
just just love and acceptance of everyone just as they are. And at the end of the day, my favorite quote too is by Ram Dass. We are all just walking each other home, which is such a beautiful reminder
Aw.
always,
Mm.
because we're all just, that's why, you show kindness to others. I always make sure that nobody ever feels excluded. I am always kind. I will always acknowledge other people. I listen, like I'm very present with people, so that nobody ever feels like they're not wanted or they're not accepted or they just don't belong. And so that's just like for me how I am. And it makes me feel good, and I feel like it's a domino effect too, because if I treat people this way, then they in turn will treat others the same.
Yes. I
Absolutely.
love that. Pay
Absolutely.
it
Yeah.
forward,
You heard
Yes.
it
'cause
here
Hmm.
first, people.
Yes.
yes, and we need
Yeah.
more of that love right now more than
Yeah,
ever.
we do.
Yeah.
We really do. And
Absolutely.
I believe on a, just because that, a lot of it is, well, how are we going to change the world and this and that? But like it starts with us, right? So like it
Yeah.
starts
Mhm.
with you as a person. So like if you're doing your part, then know that that's enough.
Yes.
Yes.
That's all you can
Absolutely.
do.
And that's all
And that's it,
that's what we want
really.
to do here at Pride the Podcast.
Yeah.
Spread the
Yes.
Yeah.
love. Spread the
We
Yes.
must
love.
continue to
Spread the
love.
love.
We
And I
must
am
continue
so
to love
grateful to
all the
be
days
here
of our
with all you
lives.
guys. Yes, yes.
Yay.
Yes. I love you, friend. I love you. Thank you for coming on. It means the
Thank
world to
you.
me. Can't wait till you get back to New York. We'll do a brunch. We'll do a brunch
Yes.
because we excel at brunch here in
Yes.
Pride Podcast.
I would love that.
So we
We
will
do,
do
we
that.
do, we do that pretty well.
Yeah. So please let everyone know where they can find you on social media. Most people already do, but just so our listeners who don't, let them know where they can follow you.
Of course. So Twitter and Instagram are like my two active ones. On Twitter, I believe, I don't know what my Twitter handle is, but I think it's Cherie A. Jimenez.
Mhm.
So Cherie, the letter A, and then Jimenez, Jimenez. And then my Instagram is Cherie Alexandra.
Yes. I love
Love
that.
it.
Yeah.
Period.
Period.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us, Cherie, and we
Well,
will
thank
have you
you,
back
love.
here soon to do a whole episode of Hot
Yes.
Topics with us. We would love you to come back and play.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yes.
I would love that. I would love that. Thank you guys so much for having me. I
Of
really appreciate
course.
it.
Thank
You're
you.
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye.
loves.